much.
Swell. The records are right in the cabinet.
Well, is it okay with you, sir?
Sure, kids. Go ahead.
Well, thank you.
Pick something groovy, Alex.
Well, listen, let me tell you, baby, what I'm talking about. Come on back to me, little girl, so
Elvis and rock and roll arrived in the 50s, and kids stopped listening to their parents' music. Beat poets led by Jack Kerouac and moving to the rhythms of jazz took the rebellion underground and inspired a counterculture. Something strange was happening. In the land of Eisenhower, Doris Day, and the segregated South, young kids were dancing to black music, celebrating sex, and hitchhiking across the country. To their worried parents, there was only one comfort. Surely, this new beat would never last.
come on, baby, let the good time roll. Come on, baby, let me thrill your soul. Come on, baby, let the good time roll. Roll all night long. Come on, baby, yes, this is it. This is something I just can't miss. Come on, baby, let the good time roll. Roll all night long.
Come on, baby, while the thrilling's on. Come on, baby, let's have some fun. Come on, baby, let's...
You better dig this next number.
Oh, take it.
In the late 40s and early 50s, New York City was pulsing with the beat of a new music, bebop. It was an original African-American sound that was changing the rhythm of the city's culture.
In that era when your life is a movie, that was the music of the movie. You could walk over to the 5 spot and hear Thelonious Monk and John Coltrane. That was the house band. That music was making an expression of the times, the way that the painting was, the statement about the time, a rhythm about the time that was very inspiring.
Come on.
Musicians, painters, and writers migrated to New York in search of new ways to express a discontent with the limits of post-war life. One of these was a young aspiring writer named Jack Kerouac. He didn't want to be just another writer. He wanted to be a jazz musician who played the typewriter. The jazz player that meant the most to Kerouac was Charlie Parker.
Kerouac was picking up on the fact that the cadences were like spoken language, that you could use those rhythms in writing. So what Kerouac was doing was taking the same kind of new rhythmic beat into his prose and his poetry.
It's the beat generation, it's Bayat. It's the beat to keep, it's the beat of the heart. It's being beat and down in the world, and like old-time lowdown. And like in ancient civilizations, the slave boatman rowing galleys to a beat.
Kerouac began picking up on the word beat, drawn from a common vocabulary of Times Square, meaning in those days, exhausted, worn out, maybe homeless, maybe up all night, not wanting to be hassled. It didn't mean beaten. It didn't mean the beat of drums. It didn't mean hearing the beat, man, snap, 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 all that hippy-dippy stereotypes you get on mass media. It just meant emotionally and intellectually exhausted and wide open and maybe receptive to some other awareness, some more deeper perception.
Kerouac and Ginsberg banded together to form a loose group of poets and writers known as the Beats.
I think what attracted us was that everybody was somewhat interested in literature, poetry, art, and to define some kind of new vision of America.
Sal, we gotta go and never stop going till we get there.
Where are we going, man?
I don't know, but we gotta go.
Across America, Kerouac began writing a novel in his mind, a beat novel, set to the rhythms of bebop that would discover for a new generation the American dream of a land without limits.
The only people for me are the mad ones. The ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, mad to be saved, desirous of everything at the same time. The ones who never yawn or say a commonplace thing, but burn, 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 like fabulous yellow Roman candles exploding like spiders across the stars.
Now the bellhop's tears keep flowing, the desk clerk's dressed in black. Well, they've been so long along the street, they'll never look back. They're so lonely, baby. Well, they're so lonely. Well, they're so lonely, they're afraid of dying.
Elvis was a crossroads personality. He was a country hick with dreams of Tinseltown who offered the ultimate American dream. To be outside, but not lonely. Free, but not poor. Naughty, but nice.
Address unknown, naughty.
Elvis Presley was born in 1935 in East Tupelo, Mississippi, a sharecropper's town. Struggling to make ends meet, Elvis and his family lived in a designated white house in a black neighborhood. It was a symbol of the post-war South, segregated and racially mixed. After the war, as machines took the jobs from the southern cotton fields, the Presleys moved to Memphis, Tennessee, a manufacturing center and a magnet for rural blacks and whites seeking a better life.
Somebody knocking on my door.
Memphis was also a music town, and the soul of the music scene was on Beale Street.
Beale Street was like a college of higher learning for me. It was more like a little city within itself. I guess it was about 4 blocks maybe, and everything seemed to be going on within those 4 blocks. There was 3 movie places, and you had the Palace Theater where they had floor shows once a week. A place called the 1 Minute that had the best chili in the world. There was musicians, the best musicians, traveling musicians, you get a chance to see. I'm talking about black musicians because this was, it wasn't integrated at that time. So you could walk in a park and some of the best musicians would stop and sometimes just practicing their horns. They'd find little corners in Beale Street, sit there and practice.
Top of the morning to you, my friend. From the home of colorful old Beale Street, the place where the blues began in Memphis, Tennessee.
WDIA was an all-black operated station. I went over there seeking a job. I said, I want to make a record and go on the radio. And he laughed and called Mr. Ferguson, which was the general manager. They said, can you write us a jingle? Can you get a jingle? Yeah. Pepticon show is good. Pepticon show is good. Pepticon show is good. You can get it anywhere in your neighborhood.
B.B. King became both a DJ and a performer on WDIA, the station with enormous power and influence, known as the mother station of the Negroes.
Now it is 3 o'clock in the morning. Can't even close my eyes.
Though it was meant for black audiences, more and more young whites began secretly tuning in.
In terms of Memphis, I think everything that happened here in the 50s culturally was a result of racial collision. The separation of the races, which had been very drastic in Memphis, both races were moving towards each other until they culturally collided.
Elvis was drawn to the music and the gaudy style of Beale Street.
And it was where the black pimps and gamblers bought their clothes, as did Elvis. I did. Anybody, you know, the kids from Memphis, you knew to go down to Lansky Brothers. I vividly remember my first white silk-on-silk Lansky Brothers shirt. I'd give anything to have that now. The big roll shawl collar, you know, I mean. Musically, what happened in Memphis is a crossroads situation. It was black music and country music. And country music, of course, was very, very different in the 50s. You could hear, honest to God, hillbilly music, you know, on the radio.
In Memphis, Elvis was like a kid in a candy store, grabbing at what he liked. The Ink Spots and Dean Martin, white gospel singers, and black blues bands.
Well, now that's all right, no mama. That's all right for you.
But at the time, mixing up the sights and sounds of the races was against the rules.
That's all right.
It would take a peculiar businessman to change all that. In 1950, Sam Phillips opened the Memphis Recording Service, 1 block from Beale Street, to record what was then known as race music.
I had one thing in mind. That was to explore the real talent potential that was in, quote-unquote, this area. I knew that it had been overlooked all these many years. I wanted so desperately to devote my time to finding these people, giving them the opportunity to record it.
You women have heard of jalopies, you've heard the noise they make, but let me introduce my new Rocket 88. Yes, it's straight, just one way. Everybody likes my Rocket 88. Baby.
White kids were buying rhythm and blues records then. I just saw this vast amount of potential customers. And I knew if we could get somebody that was white, that was singing with the fervor, the feel, and with the natural style, and with the honesty, and, quote me again, the integrity, that the feel that you got from black music, that would be a boon to this business.
In 1953, Elvis Presley was driving a delivery truck, but he wanted to be a singer. Over and over again, he would pass by Sam Phillips' studio, trying to muster up the courage to go in to record a song.
Elvis was like so many black people back in the 50s and before. He had grown up real, I mean, talking about poor financially. He was very insecure from the standpoint of what the future held for him. He made up this bit about his mother's birthday, and he wanted to do a record for her. Now, we found out, and I didn't know at the time, we found out that her birthday had long since passed, you know, and it wasn't ready for a new one.
A million years it seems have gone since we shared our dreams, but I'll hold you again. There'll be no blue memories then.
Sam Phillips asked his secretary to make a note of the boy's name and to add a brief comment. Good ballad singer, hold for later. Kerouac's life on the road began to take on a kind of mythic quality, one which he helped to create. He wrote about his experiences as if they were part of a mystical quest for a new, offbeat American dream.
At lilac evening, I walk with every muscle aching among the lights of 27th and Welton in the Denver colored section, wishing I were a Negro, feeling that the best the white world offered was not enough ecstasy for me, not enough life, joy, kicks, darkness, music, not enough night. I stopped at the little shack where a man sold red-hot chili in paper containers. I bought some and ate it, strolling the dark, mysterious streets. I wished I were a Denver Mexican, or even a poor, overworked Jap. Anything but what I was so drearily, a white man disillusioned. The Negro people will be the salvation of America.
There's an almost innocent reverence for black culture, which is a hallmark of the counterculture which will grow. They see blacks being freer and less restrained, which may be true, but it's because the other society that they are rejecting has yet to incorporate blacks in it. So they are seeking out the culture of people who would probably love to have, many of them, 9-to-5 jobs.
During the early 50s, Kerouac spent more and more time on the West Coast, where he discovered Buddhism, took long retreats into the wilderness, and experimented with drugs. Publishers rejected his writing, but a few underground critics sensed that Kerouac's searchings would resonate with a restless younger generation hungry for the open road. Hollywood sensed the same mood.
Hey, Johnny, what are you rebelling against?
What do you got? Man, you are too square. I have to straighten you out. You just go.
They took the song of the open road and set it to a new, modern beat with lyrics that came straight out of black jazz clubs.
Now, if you're gonna stay cool, you got to wail. You got to put something down. You got to make some jive. Don't you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, that's all I'm saying.
My father was going to take me on a fishing trip to Canada once.
Yeah,
We didn't go.
crazy.
What's your road, man? Holy Boy Road, Madman Road, Rainbow Road, Guppy Road, any road. It's an anywhere road for anybody, anyhow.
Kerouac could type almost as fast as he could think, or as fast as he could think. And his method was, don't stop to think of words, but to see the picture better. So that there was an unrolling, almost like the movie of the mind.
Kerouac's movie of the mind unfurled on a sheet of teletype paper. This rolling manuscript with no paragraphs and sentences that went on page after page became the first draft of a novel called On the Road.
He wasn't writing about people who got married and raised nice families. He was talking about these wild young people who went on the road, had a lot of sex, drank, took dope, listened to a lot of jazz, were looking for kicks, were not holding responsible jobs. This was a very, very threatening message in the 50s.
Hello, yes, this is Mary. How are you? Bye.
They say your kitchen dazzles every eye.
A brand new sink, a built-in oven, a new refrigerator, and a phone, a kitchen phone, a bright red phone. I gotta go. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. I'll call you later.
I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves through the Negro streets at dawn looking for an angry fix. Angel-headed hipsters.
A search for love and a cry of anger, Howl by Allen Ginsberg would be the launch pad for the Beat generation.
Moloch, robot apartments, invisible suburbs, skeleton treasuries, blind capitals, demonic industries, spectral nations, invincible madhouse, granite cocks, monstrous bombs.
And one day I sat at my typewriter and said, well, I'll just write what I feel like writing, imitating Kerouac, basically, and feeding in all the experience I had politically and socially and whatever else, you know, the normal intelligence, without any intention of publishing it. And therefore, I was free to write anything I want. So that was an interesting situation, to give up on ambition, give up on publishing, be beat, so to speak, and free.
The first public performance of Howl took place in San Francisco at a converted garage called the Six Gallery.
About, I think, 150 people showed up for the event, and people were standing, people were seated on the floor, and they were listening to us read, and they were drinking wine. Jack Kerouac was in there going, go, 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 as we read. So it had some of the aspects of a jazz program. What Howl was for all those people who were feeling that police state authoritarianism and were suffering from it and needed to hear that they weren't alone in their suffering. That was a big change in American thinking.
You know what it takes, you got it, baby. You are the only one I chose. I don't know what I can do with Perkins over there.
Sam Phillips invited Elvis back to the studio and brought in two other musicians, Scotty Moore and Bill Black. Phillips was disappointed with the results. Whatever he had originally heard in Elvis's voice wasn't coming through.
Well, we'd been in 4 or 5 times and nothing really happened. And so I had come in the studio and told them that, hey, they could stay around and kick it around a little more, or they could go on home. And Elvis kept on his guitar. In the meantime, Scotty had taken off his strap on his guitar, and Bill had laid his bass down, his old upright doghouse bass. And Elvis cut down on this thing, and I mean, he just beat the hell out of the guitar. I mean, he'd break strings going and coming. And he started out, "That's All Right, Mama." Well, I'd heard that old song, but I mean, he had never offered it, you know, at all. In fact, I had no idea he knew it. When I heard that, man, I said, good God, this is what we're looking for.
Well, that's all right, Mama. That's all right with you. That's all right, Mama. Just any way you do it, that's all right.
Sam Phillips had the sound he was looking for. But in the 50s, the cross-race feeling of the record made it a hard sell for white stations. Phillips needed to find a special kind of DJ to break the song on the radio.
Dig that boogie. Let's dig that boogie.
Oh, yes, look at people so full of such thing. The hottest cotton-picking thing that cuts a red hot blue coming through WHBQ and Hotel Chisca on the magazine floor.
In the 50s, the disc jockey wore a tie, the music was all sedate and civilized, and Dewey Phillips was a crazy redneck who had been on pain pills and was out of it on the radio, basically, and played black and white music side by side as if it were the same for an audience of people who were black and white as if they were the same. And this was a revolutionary thing.
Most people thought he was black. He was so good. He didn't talk black. He just, the records he played and the things he heard. And he was one of the most popular disc jockeys for a while there in Memphis.
It is strange things happening every day by Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
There's no way to overemphasize how important Dewey Phillips was in Memphis. I mean, the other radio stations, several of them literally went off the air when Dewey came on. He was the king of Memphis radio.
Are we here
Dewey came out to the studio that night after we'd finished up, and he got off his show at midnight, and he came out to the recording studio, and I played it for Dewey. Dewey had to listen to the thing 2 or 3 times and before he'd even make a comment. I was expecting him to say, hell no, it's nothing, or man, it's sensational. I just didn't see how you could be. After the 4th or 5th time we listened to it, and we had another drink of Jack Daniels or something, and then, by gosh, Dewey Phillips came forth with a phrase that told me something. He said, you know what? I've never heard anything like it. Now, that is what I was looking for. I mean, it really was. I've never heard anything like it. I said, okay, are you going to play it, Dewey? Do you feel like you can play it on Red, Hot, and Blue? Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, that's all right, Mama.
Nobody knew Elvis Presley then. We had just cut the record. Let me tell you something. The phones lit up. He played the record, I guess, 15 times that night. I mean, he had this town so going with That's All Right, Mama. The first thing I got out of a lot of disc jockeys was, well, what is he? What category does he fit in? You had a little bit of the country feel, but you had a whole lot of the race feel, as they call it then.
When I read On the Road, it seemed just like a burst of pure energy. The voice was so extraordinary, those long, free sentences. You know, I really thought it was gorgeous writing, and I still do.
Joyce Johnson met Kerouac on a blind date arranged by Allen Ginsberg. Over a hamburger and French fries, which she paid for, she fell in love with Kerouac.
Jack never foresaw that On the Road would have the kind of success that it had. And then he had written to me from Florida asking me if I could send him $30 so he could take the bus up to New York, because he thought maybe it would be a good idea to be around when the book came out. So he arrived the day that review came out in the Times.
The regular reviewer for the Times was on vacation, so the assignment for reviewing On the Road was handed to a part-timer who happened to be one of Kerouac's biggest fans.
The review said that On the Road would be for Jack's generation what The Sun Also Rises was for Hemingway's generation. It was hard to take in. I remember Jack asking me if I thought the review was pretty good. And I said, yes, I think it's really, really good. But still, he had no idea what it would mean for him. He was still obscure at that moment. And then we went back to the house and he lay down to sleep. And the next morning he was famous.
Well, a lot of people have asked me why did I write that book or any book. All the stories I wrote were true, because I believed in what I saw. I was traveling west one time at the junction of the state line of Colorado, its arid western one, and the state line of poor Utah. I saw in the clouds, huge and massed above the fiery golden desert of Evenfall, a great image of God with forefinger pointed straight at me, through halos and rolls and gold folds that were like the existence of a gleaming spear in his right hand, which saith, come on, boy, go thou across the ground. Go moan for man. Go moan. Go groan. Go groan alone. Go roll your
When
bones.
I read On the Road, you know, I went to San Francisco. I mean, seldom has a book in my life influenced me that I would take up and change my life. So when I was a kid, I was 18 years old, 19, something like that. Told my mother I was going to Detroit, right, to hear Yusef Lateef. I called her from San Francisco 2 weeks later, and she was really mad. That's an understatement. But I was hanging out on North Beach. I thought it was a beach. I thought it was like a place where you went swimming. And, hung out there. And I wanted to see the scene that Kerouac was writing about.
Black people and white people could have very easy relationships with each other, because that too was sort of part of the whole beat scene. They organized readings and they started their own galleries, or they published little magazines and even small books.
Beat culture did not delight the establishment. One morning, Allen Ginsberg woke up to find that Howl, the poem he had written in defense of personal freedom, had been banned for obscenity. Kerouac, plucked from obscurity, suddenly became an object of public scorn and ridicule. Mainstream critics attacked his style with surprising bitterness.
And it was it was a case of kill the messenger. He was sort of perceived as an enemy, somebody, a harbinger of a very, very threatening cultural change. People objected to the way that he wrote, and said it wasn't writing, it was typing.
I belong to the beat generation. I don't let anything trouble my mind.
While the Beats were mocked by the mainstream, they were also absorbed by it.
Just fine. Weirdsville, yeah. Some people say I'm lazy.
Books and movies exploited a popular fascination with the Beats. So unlike the rest of society, they seemed to inhabit an entirely different universe.
At the time of the Sputnik, a San Francisco columnist, Herb Cain, thought, oh boy, these poets, they're out of this world. So said Beatnik, Beat plus Sputnik. And naturally the press thought that was very good way of mocking the artistic activities and also headlining the berets, bongos, and the bedbug aspect of what they saw. They gave Beatniks a bad name.
These are the Beatniks, the defiant young, coming from every walk of life, wrought with suppressed emotions, and mocking the everyday course of modern society, intent on striking back as they wage a battle for their right to be heard. The Beatniks.
In 1954, Elvis Presley strolled through the empty municipal auditorium in Shreveport, Louisiana. The success of That's All Right Mama earned him a tryout on the Louisiana Hayride, a live concert radio show that beamed out over 28 states.
Just a few weeks ago, a young man from Memphis, Tennessee, recorded a song. It's really doing good all over the country. He's only 19 years old, Elvis Presley. Let's give him a nice hand.
The Hayride was a competition. Every Saturday night, kids from all over the Delta drove to Shreveport to see the Battle of the Bands. Elvis caused a sensation his first night. And among girls in the Delta region, word spread that hearing Elvis wasn't enough. You had to see him to believe him.
First of all, he would just start shaking that left leg, and then as the girls started to scream a little more, he started throwing his shoulders back and forth and doing little gyrations, and then he'd start throwing his hip a little bit. I said, this kid's got something. I don't know what he's got. I closed the show, or I tried to close it that first night. And then from then on, I said, hey, I'd come on right before him because, man, they wouldn't let him off the stage. They didn't want to hear anybody else. And it was my crowd already had hit records, man. They were playing them everywhere. But then when he got on the stage, he changed everything.
Train I ride, 16 coaches long.
After the concert, this gal says, I want an autograph. And just right at the thing when she said, I want an autograph, she pulled down her bra and slung out. And he said, you mean, and his face turned red, and he said, you mean you want me to autograph? And she said, yes.
And there was this girl sitting beside me, teenage girl, a little older than me. And she was just sitting there like she was frozen. All during Hank Snow, she didn't move. And then the Jordanaires start their show, and she's not moving. And I finally said to her, are you okay? And she said, yeah, I'm saving myself for Elvis. And as soon as Elvis came on, she went bananas,
his movements were shocking to us because we had never seen an entertainer perform that way before. It was like he became the music, you know, and his movements on stage, the dancing and the bop is what it was called back then. Of course, shaking that leg around, you know, twisting his leg and going down on the stage like he did. And it was shocking to us, but very thrilling.
I don't like Elvis Presley.
To understand the Elvis phenomenon, a young reporter named David Halberstam took a train ride with the young Mr. Presley.
There's this mob of young women at every stop, maybe 15, 16 years old, screaming. 5 a.m. and they're all screaming, Elvis, Elvis. And I remember asking him what he thought. And he called everybody sir. I mean, there I am. I'm the same age as he is, maybe 6 months older, and he makes probably 1,000 or maybe 10,000 times as much money I'm making. I'm making $90 a week. And he says, I ask him, you know, what do you think's behind this? He says, well, sir, I don't know what it is, sir, but it's, I think, a real good thing, sir, and I'm not going to fight it.
Well, get out of that kitchen and rattle those pots and pans. Get out of that kitchen and rattle those pots and pans.
Part of what he was doing was right out of the Holy Roller tradition. It was a thing that you would see in church, the gyrating, the twitching, the spasm, if you will, that he... Go back to the Dorsey show and see what he was really doing. He was standing there with his legs spread out, keeping time with his knees until the guitar solo. And during the guitar solo, he stepped back from the microphone and he shook. He wasn't a dancer. He didn't dance. He had religious convictions about dancing. He shook. And now, compared to Mick Jagger, Iggy Pop, however far you want to take it, it's nothing. But then, it was vulgar, it was unacceptable, and it was revolutionary, and it was liberating.
What you want to do right to say with your doggone soul.
Now, Elvis Presley could not have happened in the 40s. The world wasn't ready for it. First of all, we were still a pretty segregated society. Elvis Presley, in retrospect, was a black man's soul in a white man's body. I really believe that the American white segment of our country were ready for some soulful music from a good-looking white man. And, buddy, he was a good-looking white man.
It was destroying a racial barrier, pure and simple. And the idea that the music was nasty, quote-unquote, was made it all the more appealing. The double entendre nature of the blues, I mean, it was just a tradition, see? But the idea, I think, came along in the 50s that this tradition not only had a past, but a future. And that future was to be rock and roll, and was something that we all could participate in.
Gonna tell Aunt Mary about Uncle John. He claimed he has a music, but he having a lot of fun, oh baby. Yeah.
The cross-race sound of rock and roll broke down old barriers. White kids sent a new wave of black singers soaring up the pop charts.
Well, long, tall, Sally, she's beautiful, species guy. Everything that Uncle John need, oh baby. Yeah, baby. Ooh, baby. Having some fun tonight. Yeah. Well, I saw Uncle John with bald head Sally.
Rock and roll has got to go. And go it does at KWK. We're all through playing rock and roll records. This week is record-breaking week here at KWK. And after this week, no more rock and roll will be played on the air.
We've set up a 20-man committee to do away with this vulgar, animalistic, nigger rock and roll bop.
The obscenity and vulgarity of the rock and roll music is obviously a means by which the white man and his children can be driven to the level with a nigger.
Rock and roll was here to stay because of a new phenomenon, the youth market. By 1956, there were 13 million American teenagers with a total income of $7 billion. The average teenager earned $10.50 a week, more than the income of an entire family 15 years earlier.
Not only do you have the rise of a youth culture, but you have your main architects of American commerce conscious of it, aware that that is the possibility of a lifetime consumer and that a young buyer is more important than an old buyer. So we begin ever more to cater to the young, not just in culture, but in every aspect of the society.
Hold me close, hold me tight, let me thrill with delight, let me know from the start. I want you, I need you, I love you.
As the audience for rock and roll got younger and younger, record companies offered new technology that allowed kids to listen to their music whenever they wanted to. In the 40s, family Victrolas and table radios were controlled by parents. In the 50s, teens could buy portable radios and record players.
I think there was an Elvis Presley model that you could buy for about $47, $1 down and $8 a week. And with that, the kids had their own machines and they could buy these little 45 RPM records and play it in their room. And with that, they didn't have to gather with their parents and listen to their parents' music. They were a separate nation commercially.
She done told me, Papa done told me.
Elvis represented the idea of individual freedom. I am free to shake my leg, whether you think I am or not. You know, I'm free to sing black music, although it's socially unacceptable. I'm free to grow my hair longer than is socially acceptable. This is my statement as an individual. I think that's what Elvis was about. It's the American dream.
I'm gonna tell you how it's gonna be. Are you gonna give your love to me?
The quest for personal freedom was hard on the Pathfinders. Jack Kerouac, searching for an America and a peace he never found, ended his life in an alcoholic rage.
Oh, well, you know my love and not paid.
Elvis became a victim of his own spectacular success. Leaving his raw sound behind, he launched a movie career, spawning imitators and parodies, even as he himself became a prisoner within the walls of his Graceland estate. By the end of the 1950s, the rebellious new beat of poets, writers, and rock and roll singers had become the fuel for a commercial machine that sold youth culture around the world. But the spirit of rebellion was not extinguished. It burned slowly until it exploded with unanticipated force in the 1960s.
There must be some kind of way out of here. Said a joker to the thief. There's too much confusion.